Okay.
I pray this words.
Yeah. Gladys.
Okay. Okay, so sorry about that, ladies. I think the internet
It's
is
very down.
okay. So before we had the technical issues, we were trying to find out if somebody meets Christ, does it open a way or an opportunity, or like I just wanted to try and link it, but if we can't say it on a fact, then I think we can move on.
I
So we
think
can move on. Right?
there can be a lot of assumptions, just as
Mm-hmm.
Grace also did. I mean, the church was linked with education in the era, so
Mm-hmm.
it could be that she was also educated. I mean, because she accepted Christ, she got access to it. It can also
Mm-hmm.
mean that I feel that when we meet God, so we find value, we now value ourselves, and then we see that, oh, we are worth something.
I think you have the right vocabulary and the words to describe what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Gladys.
I feel like, yeah, it happens like that too. So it might be the case as well. I do not deny that at all.
Yeah, but we can't say it on the fact that it's always the case.
No.
But sometimes it can happen that finding Christ can lead to, getting some education and some value added to yourself. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. So we will move quickly to her marriage and family life. Okay. So great. I think we can take it from there.
Okay. So with her marriage, what I learned is she was married to a man called William Smith, and they got married in 1896. Yeah, and I was amazed they had 9 children. And actually, I shouldn't be saying I'm amazed because my mother also had 9 children, even though 2 have
Really?
passed. Yes, my mom had 9 children. I'm the 8th born of my mother. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I saw one of the common things we've been seeing throughout the Mothers of Reformation, that some of them have their husbands living at a point, or some of them even have them living cry. And it happened to her as well. Her husband left her at a point and then came back. I think that was basically what I read about her marital life.
So
I think much was said on that too.
okay, so Grace, I'm not cutting you, but this point that you just made, the women general and their husband.
Yeah, it's a problem.
I don't know if also because of the husband that makes them give their all into ministry. Can we link anything like that? Not necessarily.
So. Wow. I think so. I think that actually, especially in their era, I'm sure a lot of men were not used to a woman not sitting home and a woman being out there, because at that time women were not that free. They didn't have that liberty like what we have today. So I'm sure it could also be that after that time, the men they were not really used to a woman not being home. So because the women were usually the ones home taking care of the children. They are always home. The husband will always go and come back and leave. So maybe that was also a challenge, that Why would I be the one to
But
work and my wife would be the one to go and come?
okay, but
That's
looking
definitely
through
a challenge.
all of them, for example, Miss Eta wanted to find her call in her husband. Then Susanna Wesley needed to step in for the husband. And then Catherine Coleman married and found out that she had made a mistake. And then,
Amy
okay, so the rest. So, Amy McPherson's husband, the first husband passed. So, was it like the man was not used to a woman being out there, or it was because they were not having a stable or an available husband for the time, so they used their time to do the things of God.
I think when you take Emmy's second husband, for instance, I think if I can remember, he left or he separated from her because of the ministry, right?
Yeah.
And it was because she was always out there, and probably he wasn't used to always. You are traveling, you are going here. I have to follow you here. I have to follow you around and all that. So he felt like, okay, I'm not going to. I can't adjust to this kind of lifestyle. So then, if this is the way you want to be, so at that point, I believe she was supposed to choose between the marriage and the ministry, and obviously she chose the ministry. So maybe the men were not really used to women always being all over the place and all that. So maybe that can be a factor.
Okay.
But with Lucy, can we really say that that was a factor? Knowing that she got married, I think the husband moved before she even started anything about ministry. I don't know whether we don't have the particular information.
So we have it.
Yes, I don't think it was mentioned that
what happened was that actually
before.
Yeah, what happened was that while when they got married, they were at Wood Dock. Let me confirm.
Yeah, that's Yes,
and then they moved to Athens, which was also in Georgia. So it was in Athens that the man.
Greece, right?
I thought
there's another
Athens, but apparently there's another Athens.
There's another Athens. Okay, so when they got to Athens, then he abandoned her. But they were still staying in Athens together, but he abandoned her and the children. And then she and the children
started her ministry.
No, all that while she had not started, but we are trying to look into how she had to find herself in ministry without necessarily her husband being part of her, until the husband joined her later. And Grace, since we got the point that it seems like the women general have a little issue with their husbands being permanently available or being together with them in ministry. And we are trying to find out it's because they do not have that gap filled by their husbands, so they fill it with their ministry.
Come again with the last.
What I'm saying is that is it because they don't have the gap filled with their husbands, so they fill it with working for God?
I feel I believe
so
that
with Catherine Coleman,
go ahead.
With Catherine Coleman, she found herself in the wrong marriage. In a marriage she wasn't supposed to be in, and then she had to leave at a point. But if you take Amy, for instance, you can see that the second husband she married was Mr. McPherson, for instance.
But Grace, you remember for Amy, she was carved for ministry because the first husband trained her for ministry.
And even the second husband even started with her to a certain point. I think they were doing ministry to a certain point where I don't know why
he realized that was not the line that he could tone, so he left it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't think we would have to actually spend so much time, but God knows why. Maybe these women had a little issues with having their permanent husband, and we don't know if.
And recently, a man of God, I was speaking to a man of God recently, and he was also bringing the same thing up, that he has realized that he wasn't even talking about women in general. He was talking of women of God in our time. That those women who are very zealous for God and all that, most of them have issues with their marriage.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Ghanaian gospel side, you can see that thing there. So he was even talking about the fact that some of the women are not submissive when they take up such roles.
Okay.
Because suddenly it looks like she is the head of the family, because it's more like she is doing what a man should do. So if you don't take care, you might see yourself as the man, because and he used a woman as an example, a woman who is into ministry, that he knows them, and the husband is not doing ministry. He's working, and then the woman is in full-time ministry. But when the woman comes home, she begins to order the man around. Do this. Have you done this already? Have you picked this up? So it's more like she is the one who goes and comes to meet the man. So she was actually taking the place of the man in the home. Maybe she wasn't aware that that's what she was doing, but that is what she was doing.
I can imagine, Grace, because if the woman is doing ministry, obviously God is using her, and there might be people that maybe she instructs around. So if God doesn't help her, she may think
we are part of them.
I'm saying this because this point you are raising, this is exactly what the man said. That because she always orders people around, she was now bringing it to her home.
But seriously, you know,
in the home, there is a different leadership altogether in the home.
Oh, as for Joyce Mia, she has said it severally that she has had time and again issues with getting the husband along, and you know she will even go ahead and tell you that she's not also the cooking type.
So it makes my
she's not into the domestic kind of work. She will tell you even while she's sitting on the pulpit. She'll tell you that she's not into. That's why she's gotten maybe a chef or something, and so you know it will not be easy for her. But I believe it. So she said that at a point her husband was referring her to her own sermons that she has been preaching to bring her attention to the fact that what she's saying, you know, she has to now come and practice it in his own home.
But
because her ministry is women ministry, and for women ministry, if you go to women ministry, like for example in Church of Pentecost, if you go to women ministry, the basic things that you'll be told is submission to your husband. I mean, doing your duty as a wife in the home, because the home is your first ministry before you even move out to say that you're going to speak to someone. Now we have the single ladies who are the virtuous ladies, okay, and obviously they instill these same values in them before they get married. So for a woman, you are already conscientized to know that you come in to support your husband, or you come in to support, not to come and find position or space or something. But we also know that there are women that God uses. We also know that there are women that God uses. We also know that there are women that
I was thinking about it this afternoon, that you know there are women. Not every woman is supposed to be behind the scenes.
That is it.
There are some women who are called behind the scenes, just push them, and there are women who are frontliners.
Yeah.
So we need to, like Sarah Jane,
but Grace, I've remembered this point. I don't want to forget. We need to understand that it's not like every woman that is so zealous about ministry would necessarily have an issue with her marriage. So we are coming to that understanding, right? Otherwise, otherwise we may think that if somebody is all out, then it means that there is no man to defend life or something.
And I think we can look at it in both ways. Like the
Okay.
first example I gave, for instance, about the women sometimes not being submissive enough because of the role they've taken up. But I think on the other side, sometimes we see that the men are insecure because
That one too
sometimes,
is another.
yes, because sometimes it's more like some men are afraid that the woman will come and dominate. So it's more or less like I don't want her to outshine me or something. So you know, there was a time I was watching an interview by Sarah Jake and her husband, right? And he said a lot of wonderful things. And I'm like, if most men could think that way,
The husband
women
is
who are
one.
called to the front line would easily fulfill their
You know, you know,
Let's not forget.
Sarah
Let's
Jane's
not forget
husband was
that
already in ministry. Oh.
exactly the husband is in
exactly.
He is
ministry.
fully in
Exactly.
ministry.
He's fully in ministry. And the amazing thing is that he's fully in ministry. Even though probably when it comes to the global scale, Sarah is known than him, right? But
Okay.
he throws all his support behind the woman.
Yeah.
And he's not afraid that if I throw my support behind her, she will shine than me. We are both pastors, but she will shine than me. That alone, and I think he was in the interview, he was talking about Joseph and Mary. Joseph and Mary. Mary is more like she's mentioned more times than Joseph. But
Yeah,
it
that's
doesn't mean
true.
Joseph's role was not important.
Yeah.
Without Joseph, Mary
To
couldn't
money
have
might
done it
not
on
be.
her own.
Exactly.
So I think we can look at it in both ways. Sometimes the insecurity of men, and sometimes the
Yeah.
women not being submissive enough. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Grace. So
Because
still about her.
I think sorry, I wanted to mention Sissy Winans and the husband as an example, and also
Okay.
Kingsley Okonkwo and Mildred Okonkwo too as an example.
Yeah.
I think so far
Okay.
we've had people that are their marriages are thriving. So we
Yeah.
can't, just as Irene said, we can't conclude for one side. It can go either ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for Mildred and Kingsley, you would understand that Mildred's education level is higher than Kingsley.
Exactly. She mentioned.
But Kingsley was called into ministry, and Mildred too had been prepared for ministry. But like Kingsley actually was, he will tell you that he did not even finish like something. Maybe the highest he had was like O levels. God actually, brought her to the point of actually encountering him, and then making him, start ministry early. Okay, so he is already into ministry, and then Mildred too is a Christian girl who has gone to school, who is polished, who is probably from, should I say probably, but from a rich home, but had met Kingsley. But at the end of the day, she has submitted to Kingsley's authority.
That's true.
I think I read the same thing about Bishop Oyedepo and his wife. That after the time he was in polytechnic, the woman had, I think, graduated from the university, or she was in the university or something. So it was more like education-wise, she was like a bit above him, but she was still able to submit to him. And
Yeah. Okay. So what are we taking home? Are we taking home that it is not always all the time that a woman that is so much into ministry might be having a problem with the husband?
Oh yes,
And we are
depends
also
on
taking
the
home
person
that
she's married to.
yeah, and we're also taking home that it's possible for both husband and wife to be involved in ministry, actively involved in ministry with same understanding. And then the third one too is that when you have issue with husband, that one there is easy for you to quickly take your Lord as your husband. Okay. All right. So please, are we done with her marriage and family life? Her children? Yeah, you mentioned about her children, Grace.
Yeah, for her children, I think I didn't see any information about her children too.
Yeah, I think
All
Elon,
I
when we
knew
were
was she
doing
had
the
9 children.
discussion, So, Ellen,
I
when
think
we're doing the discussion,
later in her life, something was mentioned about her last daughter or something. That is
yeah.
what I
So,
can recall.
yeah. So later in her life, she was survived by 3 children. So she actually lost most of her children, and she survived by 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So about her children, they were 9, as you've mentioned, Grace. And
Mm-hmm.
please, any more, Gladys.
Oh,
Oh,
Gladys, we can't hear you.
you can't
I
hear
think
you.
you're
I
on
think you're
mute.
muted.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Gladys.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
It's better.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry for
Gladys, we
that.
can hear you now.
Okay, so I was saying that
Okay.
she got married very early. It was recorded that she got
Mm.
married at age 21, which was
21.
very early. Yeah, because looking at the time she got to, she even went to school. She was at 13 years by then, and right like 8 years she got married. Like I think that was too fast. Yes, that was too fast. So I don't know what led to her getting married that very early. But I was early.
But Gladys,
Okay.
we are talking about an era too here. Oh. I think
Exactly.
in their time they were
That
really
era,
marrying very early.
very
Oh.
early. Some
Yeah.
were marrying in their teens,
18.
right?
Yeah,
Yes.
some were marrying in their teens. I remember Susanna married around
Yeah.
19 or something.
And then Emmy even gave
Amy
birth
too.
to her
Yeah.
first daughter around 20 or 21 or something.
Yeah.
Mm,
So I
So,
think it was
Yeah.
something about that era.
yeah.
oh, how
But it's good to
marriage
marry
was
early
then.
as a young woman. Is it not good to marry early as a young woman when God,
I think
finds you to suit her?
I think if you are well prepared for it, why not?
Even more.
Mm,
It's not a matter of age; it's a matter of maturity. And age doesn't matter when it comes to maturity. Some people mature
It's
very early.
good. Mm-hmm.
So if you are ready for it, why not?
Why
yeah.
not? That's true.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And I
true.
think, Irene, you were making mention of the fact that, I mean, a woman with 9 children doing the Lord's work,
Yeah.
which was very rare. We talked about it when we were uh, having, I mean, the challenges that come with even having one child. And we are talking about living in the West and not living in Africa.
Mm,
It's an
And you know the
individualistic
point where
system.
and even the point where the husband even left,
mm.
she was taking care of all the 9 children alone. That
Exactly.
would be a very difficult time.
Exactly. That is why
And
I
how long?
somehow feel sorry, Irene. I somehow
Oh,
feel that
please go ahead.
the husband leaving also led to maybe she finding her calling very quickly. It's more like,
It's
hey,
Okay.
true.
I mean,
It's
I'm
true.
at my down moment, so you are the only one who can help me. Like I have my gaze on you, so it's more like in those troubled times where we are able to find God. I feel like that is what she also encountered in her life with her husband leaving.
So it means that
Mm-hmm.
if her husband has to leave before she fulfills her calling, doesn't mean the husband is not kingdom minded enough. Because why should my husband leave before I fulfill my calling? So in case maybe I marry,
Mm-hmm.
like I marry before I find my purpose. Oh, this is going to
Mm-hmm.
line myself. In case maybe I marry before I find my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
does it mean that I think sometimes the man can even me being with that man should I think even push me to God or make me even find my purpose. But in her
Mm-hmm.
case, the man had to go before, meaning that the man's presence was even how do I put it? The man's presence was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like blocking something God wanted to do in her life. Is that it?
And
Mm.
I think
Let us go.
that
Mhm.
that is true, but I think have you seen from my view, I think the man left to maybe get a better place or a better standard of living for the children because we noticed that they were just moving from one town to the other.
Okay.
Right? Yes, and they were looking for other means to survive. let's take note. The 9 children, including the mother and the father, were in only one room before the man had to leave. Meaning he needed to also go and get some things, put some things in place, and make sure he gets enough to come
I think the word that was used most often was he abandoned them.
Yes, he abandoned them,
Yeah.
and later on came back again.
So if he abandoned them, then it means that he wasn't necessarily going to look for greener pastures somewhere.
And come back.
Yeah, he just because if he had okay, then Mrs. Juma kindly take over.
Okay, so
Maybe you can tell her what we are doing, or so that.
So I was asking a question about the Ella mentioned something about the husband leaving, and then at that point was when she also discovered her purpose. And I was asking that, does it mean that the husband's presence was preventing God from doing what he wanted to do in her life? So that is what we're talking about.
But I believe that naturally, like women that have their husbands actively in ministry, what they do is to like follow.
Okay.
On the other hand, some that might not have their husbands actively in ministry, if God, fine, I'm just giving an example that if God wants them to do something for them, I believe that that gap becomes where God comes to fill in their life.
But her husband was not doing ministry. It wasn't recorded that he was doing ministry. So yeah. We don't even know how his relationship with God was.
But I think the situation of having issue with the husband might also have something to do with some emotional, psychological, mental health issues. So maybe coming to church to find that kind of fellowship and all that, for all you know, God finds them there.
It's really likely, Irene, but it's just because of that information gap, we can't tell whether it was a
so it looks like now we are doing a lot of
we are doing a lot of assumptions, exactly, but it's really likely as well. Yes, it can be.
But
and
I think Gladys wants to come.
Elom, let me ask this question. Assuming like someone who practically might have married a man and they had given birth to 9 children and the man had left her, what would be some of the possible scenarios that that person might go through? Like if you take church out. you let's take church out and see what else the person will do with her life and the children.
Oh. Yes, this was a woman who wasn't as educated, so we can't think that she had a very stable job.
So it was recorded that she had a sewing job or something.
Yeah, she took up
after her husband left.
After the husband left.
I don't think the sewing job was lucrative, because when the husband abandoned her and she took to the sewing job, she still moved from the Athens to Atlanta to look for better life. And then at the Atlanta too, she still moved to Chicago, still searching for greener pastures.
So the thing is, even with the husband present, it was not easy to take care of the 9 children. How much more in his absence?
Much more in the absence.
I think she was just trying as like what most women would do, just to make her children eat, just to make her children wear clothes, just to make her children survive.
The basic.
Yeah, the basic.
Yeah, that's so true. And the amazing thing is that when she moved from Atlanta to Chicago, And you know, it's Chicago that God helped her to begin her ministry. And that one, the man joined her. So, Elom, you remember we were discussing why the man joined her after the two of them were staying in the same town, and he decided to abandon her.
We were assuming to, right? For you're not doing well, so let me come back. It could be that.
And I believe that it could also be God, because now she has found
That's
her
what I
purpose.
mentioned.
So go back to her.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
now she has
what I
found her purpose.
mentioned.
So go back to her. So maybe that period, God Himself separated the man from
Hey.
from her, for her to be able to find
I think,
God
Grace, what you are
Himself,
saying
and
there.
then the man comes back. Because I learned the man was with them now till he died. They were not
Exactly.
separated again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it
So
could
I
be.
believe it was God. It was God
It could
Himself.
be. I think I was kind of convinced it was God, because you see how the mother single-handedly raised them and the children, and you growing up from such a home, you would think that, oh, this is really family ties, chains that will continue. So if my husband leaves me, do I have hope that you come back? I feel like, oh, it's just something that is continuing in my family, but God could have used that to break that chain or something. So
Yeah.
I also thought about it in that way. So
Yeah.
it's
And my mind came to, even though we are just about going into her call, my mind came to the fact that she giving her time and her one room that she had to God made her reverse that chain of single motherhood, which her mother faced. You know, it was gradually coming to her, but God overturned it. Okay, so I think we have finished with the marriage and the family life, and so we can quickly move to her call. What actually began her call? What ignited the fire that no, I believe God is calling me to this mission? So I think, Grace, you can pick it up, because I just saw you nodding your head.
Okay, so I believe it always starts from somewhere.
Exactly.
So we know that at age 12 she was in the Baptist church, and then later she converted to Pentecostalism. That is through the Stone Church, right?
Yeah.
And we also learned that the Stone Church had services where they invited these great ministers like William Seymour. I think he brought about the Azusa revival, and then Smith Wigglesworth, and then Maria Woodworth Eater, and all those people were coming around. And what I learned when I was reading that portion was that the kind of atmosphere. So you see, Mrs. Juma posted atmosphere on the phone. The kind of atmosphere you find yourself in, or the kind of
exposure,
the kind of grace,
you
find, or the kind of people you even listen to, the kind of men of God you are exposed to, and the kind of teachings you are exposed to, and all that. It has a lot of impact on your purpose, on your calling.
Exactly.
So when we read about that side, I think I read a part that said that it was through her being in the Stone Church and through those teachings and being under being in such atmosphere, that was what also birthed something in her that and that is what made her realize that she could also be called into that healing ministry. So I believe her ministry was birthed under the administration of other great men and women of God.
Grace, that aspect is so critical. It's so critical. It's so critical. I remember when we were discussing it, we said that so it might even mean that she might have gotten her elder title from the Stone Church, Because we don't think that while she was at the Stone Church, she was warming the pew, just as Elom said. Yeah, she might have been actively participating in the service. So because it's on record that after a few time of joining the Stone Church, she caught it. She caught the anointing. She caught the gift. She caught the
she was serving. Yeah.
And she was practicing. Yes, and she was still practicing it. And I believe that if you are saying that you have received the gift of faith healing, and you know, in the area of faith healing, it's about do on that. And if God doesn't back you, in the area of faith healing, I don't know what you would do. Because faith healing, no, when I read about it, it's like you are going to pray for God to intervene, to bring healing physically, spiritually. I mean, something must change, and it should be evident, and it should be related to a particular prayer or ministration that you had done over someone. And the faith healing area, and for people to actually leave their crutches and their sticks at the basement, and probably they might have been using their crutches when they came, but they left it with you and walk home without the crutches, and it can be seen and confirmed that this is it, and this is divine, this is supernatural. So faith healing area, I don't think that if she had not really practiced it to confirm and have the conviction that no, God has called me to this area, but over here, no, because that's what they do here, and they might not give me the platform enough. Meanwhile, when I pray for people, I can see that they get healed. So then let me move. And when I was discussing with Gladys made the point that probably she had to move from the Stone Church so that people that would also receive from her, would have the opportunity of receiving from her. Because if she was supposed to minister in the Stone Church, probably she might not have gotten that opportunity on the platform. But people were coming, more higher people, more. I mean, I'm lacking the right vocabulary, but the idea is that there were more like established, known people, known for healing, ministration, the revivalists and all that we know that this is what they do. And we cannot do a try and error with your gifting that you said you have received.
Exactly.
It's likely.
Exactly. And one thing too, I think we should notice that the Bible says that the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord.
Exactly.
So if we allow ourselves for God to order our steps, you order our steps to the places where we will be prepared for destiny. So it was not a coincidence that she found herself in the Stone Church, where almost all those people who came to minister, most of them were healing ministers, like Smith Wigglesworth, like Maria Woodworth-Eater. All of them had this grace for healing. So she being under them, and they were not ministers, resident ministers there. They were invited there from time to time.
Yeah.
So it was not a coincidence that she found herself there, and those people were invited to come. So I'm sure she